Good morning. Welcome to Friday. Hurrah for Friday. Because that depends whether you work weekends or not, really, doesn't it? I will be working tomorrow.
You will. What are you doing there?
What am I doing tomorrow? Oh, funny you should ask.
Yeah.
For anyone that is around tomorrow, MoonCon 23 is running tomorrow from noon, 12 midday UK time, right round till the last talk is at 8 o'clock, so 12 till 9. On the Moonbooks Facebook page, on the Moonbooks YouTube channel, free, open to everyone, no tickets, no nothing, just click on the Facebook page or their YouTube channel and you will see the talks come up. Streaming live. Lots of different authors from Moonbooks. I'm not talking this time, but I am behind the scenes running it all, pedaling my bike or whatever it is I need to do to make things work. The link is in the comments. Thank you. That's the link for the event. The live streaming will actually run direct to the Moonbooks Facebook page and to the YouTube channel. So yes, do join us tomorrow. Lots of lovely authors doing talks. You can ask them questions. Same kind of setup as this, really. Funny that, being as it's me that's running it. But some brilliant authors, and it's free. And all the talks will be recorded as well, so you can watch them again at your leisure. So there's my advert over.
Any others?
Might as well, might we? What have we got? What else have we got?
Kitchen Witch Ritual.
Kitchen Witch Ritual, Sunday the 19th, I want to say,
of
March, 7 p.m. on the Kitchen Witch Coven Facebook page and the Kitchen Witch Coven YouTube channel. We are making bunnies. Got to join us for that one.
Wild Witchcraft.
Yeah, Wild Witchcraft after that, 25th, local to me, Horndean, Hampshire. Brilliant conference. Tickets are available online. Several speakers, myself included. Myself and the girls will be there with a stall as well, selling books.
Links up.
What do we got after
Witches.
that? Wandering Witches is April the... Come on, quicker, faster.
15th.
April the 15th. Myself and the girls will be there at Wandering Witches all day with a stall as well for people to come up and say hello. Links are all in the comments. Loads of stuff going on. Lots of lovely people already saying hello. Thank you, everyone, and good evening to Sephora on the other side of the planet. It still makes my head explode. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Maharit. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Little Miss Nemo. Good. I was guessing it's not morning in South Africa. Hi, Claire. Good morning, Senia. Good morning, Mandy. Good morning, Emma. You've got snow? No, we very rarely get snow where I am. We are down in the southeast of England, but we are south. Sorry, we are. Geography, it's never a strong point.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, but we're on the coast, so we very rarely get snow here. I think the ocean.
5 years ago, the last time.
Is it 5 years? Yeah, the ocean puts it off, I think. Which I don't mind. I think snow is beautiful.
We can't cope.
But we can't cope with it. No, we're not geared. We're not set up in the UK to deal with it. Sephora can see going to be very tired after this weekend. The talks are live, but you can watch them on catch up too. Sephora, are you singing for me? Christine, loved last talks on MoonCon. Watched them on YouTube. They were brilliant. They're a good crowd of authors we've got. Lots of good stuff to look forward to. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Helen. Good morning, Angela, from a very windy France. Yes, when I put the bird feed out this morning, I nearly got blown away. Definitely very windy out there. Good morning, Eva. Claire, only 2 time zones from you, so it's 11:05 now. Okay, so not too bad. Snowing in Hull. Yeah, there's a lot of snow across the UK today, isn't there? Daughter's very happy. Yeah, the kids love the snow, don't they? I'm not sure Daxons would love snow. You haven't seen any, have you? Oh.
A bit cold on your
yeah, on his belly.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
It would be a bit cold on
Yeah.
his belly.
Dangling on the, yeah.
Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Teresa. Good morning, Deb. Deb's put a cup of coffee and a croissant. Just saying. No. What are you squinting for? Would you like a cup of coffee as well and a croissant?
Would you like a cup of
I
coffee?
don't think dogs should have cups of
Not
coffee.
them,
really.
you.
Oh, that would be nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll try one of my new lattes. Thank you.
Okay, any particular flavour?
No,
Would you like one, Eric?
make a croissant while you're out there too. That'd be quite cool.
No.
No, croissants take, you'd have to make like literally days to make croissants. I have made croissants once, never do it again. What a faff. Anyway, Xenia doesn't like snow because it's cold and wet. It looks beautiful, but practicalities of it not so good. Trees at 3 a.m. where you are, you're mad. Sephora says Eric doesn't like puddles, really can't see snow being his thing. His undercarriage so close to the cold. Yeah, he walks around puddles, can't see him dealing with snow. Christine, forecast for us says it's going to rain for 2 weeks. Yes, that's our forecast as well. Lots of rain. Morning, Jackie. Good morning, Deb. Just been sent home from work due to bad weather, but you can watch me live. There's a bonus, a silver lining for you. Teresa is in Florida. Wow, I have been to Florida once. Did the whole Disney thing. Got caught in a store, you know, whatever the word is. Hurricane. Yeah, that's the one. But an amazing place. Jane says 3 a.m. is the witching hour. How appropriate. Not in my world, Jane. That's sleepy time. Deb, 4 a.m. here. You lot are mad. Totally bonkers. Which is probably why you fit here so well. We're all bonkers here. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Charlie. Fallen tree blocked the path this morning. Had to kind of crawl underneath it. Very pretty though, white wonderland. That's not fun. Yeah, snow, pretty. Not so practical. Good morning, Christine. Celia, misread cowplane as complain. Yes, wild witchcraft is no, not the wild witchcraft. The wandering witches is in Cowplain. Right, it's called Cowplain. It's quite a lot of fields around there. That's probably what it is. Sephora, let's get these. Sephora have discovered these words to make me say Mara Mataka, which is the Maori moon calendar. Oh, fantastic. Bet that is fascinating. Brilliant. Let us know how you get on with that one. Jane, I wonder how many of us wake up automatically for the witching hour. I think I woke every 2 hours last night and several nights before. Not sleeping well at the moment. Yeah, it's interesting now. I wonder if we do. We'll wake up at the same time. Teresa says, where's Eric? He's in a beanbag down here under a pink blanket. Christine used to work in a big well-known building in London on night shift. At 4 a.m. every morning, we would hear the sound of boots along the corridor. I learned that 4 a.m. is the witching hour. A little bit spooky. Good morning, Jackie. Snowing in Romford too, but too wet to settle. Yeah, good old British rain interferes, doesn't it? So, yes, we have rain here. It's rained for a couple of days here. No snow down here on the coast. Sephora says Facebook's being very jerky, just in general, but YouTube's okay. It does tend to be, if Facebook's messing about, YouTube's generally the better option. Jane says the witching hour is generous, goes from 2 till 4 a.m. Yeah. Good morning, Trudy. So I was thinking about what to talk about, like you do this week, and I get asked quite a lot, particularly when I'm running events and things or talks or workshops, what's the moon phase? And I must admit, I don't always know, roughly, but I don't always know bang on. Usually know if it's a full moon or a dark moon. And I use a phone app for the moon phases if I need to check them. And of course, I've written a couple of books about moon magic. Have you? It's a good job Pete's not in here. He brought me to, yeah, anyway. Yeah, I'm having written a couple of books about moon magic, and I think it's probably one of the areas that most witches work with. Perhaps not all, but most witches tend to work with moon magic in some form. And Beneath the Moon that I wrote has tons of stuff in it, and it deals with the 9 phases of the moon. It deals with the months of the moon. It deals with the zodiac signs when the moon's in the zodiac sign, and you can really refine it right down to work your magic. But how many of you do that on a regular basis? It's time to own up. That's what today is all about. How much do you work with the moon on a regular basis? Because I also get asked the question, I'm sure most of you have been asked the same. Do you work spells every day? Well, no, I don't. I don't work spells every day at all. Probably not even every week. I think spells are a big part of witchcraft, but not the whole part of it. And if I do work them, I generally tie them in with the moon phase. But what do you guys do on a regular basis? Not generally talking spells, but just working with the moon. Do you just pop outside and look up and say hello to her? Or do you, on a regular basis, work with the 9 phases of the moon? Do you work with just the full moon? Do you work with just the new moon? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you do. Do you just light a candle on the full moon, or do you do a whole ritual? How do you work with it? How do you work with the moon on a regular basis? That's my question for today. I will be honest, I know the full moon is probably the big one, literally. I tend to work with the new moon more when I'm working with spells or doing practical things. I tend to tie it in with the new moon more than I do the full moon. I don't know why, I just do. It's just, what colour is this one?
Jaffa cake.
Jaffa cake. Oh,
Jaffa cake.
had a bright pink latte yesterday called her flamingo latte. So I have a Jaffa cake latte today. It's probably sounds better than it is because it's got all stuff that's good for you in it, isn't it? It smells nice. So that is my question today. What do you do with the moon on a regular basis? Now you gotta own up here to what you do and don't do.
Eric has a dog treat.
Eric has a dog treat. He's very pleased about that. Eva, massive storm this morning, so I had to postpone Freya's walk, but it will be 18 here on Monday. It's mad, isn't it? Yes, the moon is. Let's have a look. So I have a Stargate phone because I'm such a geek. I have a moon phase Uji flip. They are waning gibbous. That is today. The waning gibbous. So it is 92.1% waning, and it's in the zodiac of Libra. All very useful stuff if you want to work magic of any kind. But how many of you do? How many of you break it right down into one of the 9 phases or into the zodiac signs in the moon? And what do you do on a regular basis? I'm just being nosy, really, just to see how, I do. If I'm doing something really important, then I will work it in with the moon phases. But on a regular basis, not so much. Just, being honest. Good morning, Janet. Sephora. We follow moon phase heavily as we garden by the moon. Yes, if you are, particularly with things like fruit and vegetables, if you do grow your own fruit and vegetables, it's really, really useful to garden by the moon phases. Jane, it's waning here too, but not too much. Wherever we are in the world, the moon phase will be exactly the same. It's one of those weird things that happens. So it is waning, just a slither off. Kerry, I usually do a spell mainly on full moons and new moons. They seem to be the ones, don't they? And I'm the same. If I'm working something, I will tend to work it on a new moon or a full moon. There are the 9 phases, but I wonder how many of us actually work specifically with those, breaking it right down to that much detail. And how many of us just work with the 4, the waxing, the full, the waning, and the dark. And the dark is another one. How many of you guys work with the dark moon? Because I know it's got a little bit of a reputation for people not wanting to work any magic on the dark moon. So how many of you do? Xenia, glorious coffee. Actually, it's not coffee. It's one of these healthy jobbies with, you know, I was going to say matcha, but I don't like matcha. That's really nasty. But it's, I think it's cacao and orange oil or something like that, this one. Maria, usually do a diary during the phase and write what phase, percentage and sign it is in, but have with most of the things put it to one side, but feel it's time to begin again at the next new moon. New moon, perfect for starting that. Absolutely. I do look, if I'm submitting a new book proposal, I will often tie that in with the moon phase. I make sure that it's on a new moon or a full moon when I put the proposal in. Just, you know, put a bit of extra luck behind it. Put one in this last new moon. Another one, I know. Little Miss Nemo, I'd like to do more moon work, but it's not often visible, so tends to slip my mind. But when I see her, I always say, beautiful moon. Daughter's taken to doing the same. That's another question, actually, it's an interesting one that I do get asked a lot. People will say to me, I can't see the moon, so I can't work with it. Oh, you absolutely can. Just because you can't see the moon doesn't mean you can't feel the power. The ocean tides don't stop if the moon's not visible. The power is still there. So even if you can't see the moon, you can still work with it. But yes, I get what you're saying. If it's not visible, it can tend to slip the mind. I'll go out to the back garden before I go to bed and look up, and depending on what phase it's in, I can either see it or I can't. But at the front of the house at that same time, I can't see it from the front of the house. So it depends where you are as well, and your visibility of it. Jane, sometimes I can't resist looking at the moon again and again till I start feeling a bit moon mad. Yes, it draws you in, doesn't it? It does draw you in. And I mean, there are fantastic rituals. Drawing down the moon is amazing to work with. Moon spells are amazing to work with. But there is something very special about just moon bathing, just standing there and looking up at her and letting the energies wash over you. It is an incredible feeling. Maharet, ritual offering to my matron deity on new moon, the quarters and full moon, tarot on new and full moon, plus spell working if necessary. That's a lot. That's brilliant. Ritual offerings to your matron deity on the new moon. Nice. New energy. The quarters and the full moon. Okay, that's dedication. That's hats off to you, Maharet. Hats off to you. Tarot on the new and the full moon. Excellent for working with tarot and divination of any kinds. I think the new and the full moon are particularly good for working magic and for the energy of spell work. Unless you want to release something, then obviously the waning moon. But does anyone break it right down to the quarters and the waxing gibbous and the waning gibbous and, you know, the whole 9 phases of them? She says, hopefully, because I wrote about it in Beneath the Moon. It's interesting because there are different energies there. Emma, I've not been working with the moon for a little while, been too poorly to even think about it. Big hugs to you, my lovely. But even if I'm poorly, I meditate on the moon and it helps me feel connected still. Her energy's still there, isn't it? Her energy is still there. Maria has 2 moon apps. They are very, very useful. Charlie, does staring at the moon count? Absolutely. Moon mesmerized. I like that. Sporadic at best. Don't. Such a good reminder. It was just something that I thought about, and I thought, you know, I do write about the moon a lot, and I do teach about moon magic a lot, and it is a big part of what I do as a witch. particularly perhaps even more so in the winter, because in the summer I tend to work with the sun a lot more than I do the moon, because I'm not really a night bird, I guess. The days are longer. I go to bed in the daylight sometimes. So I think perhaps the winter is more about moon magic for me, because I see it more often. But yeah, it was just a kind of thought that sometimes we drift away from stuff, and is it the moon that pulls us back? I don't know. Karen, new moon, I wash the door down in mint, clean under the doormat and place basil and a silver coin under it. Perfect. Now there's an interesting question. New moon. On a lot of the calendars, you get just the normal bog standard calendars. They put the full moon and they put the new moon, but they put the new moon when it's dark, when there's no moon in the sky whatsoever. I class that as the dark moon. I don't work on the new moon until I can see the first slither of moon. How do you guys feel about that? Do you work with the new moon when it's still dark, or do you work with the dark moon as a separate phase? Willow moon, stop and gaze, transfixed like a moon gazing hare. I think we all get caught by it, don't we? I think it's got that pull to it, hasn't it? Little Miss Nemo, when I did a healing ritual for my sister-in-law's mother, I chose a healing day and made sure that the moon was in the right position, i.e. out of void, of course. Yes, I think I have done quite an important healing spell recently. I did a 7-day spell. And that I did make sure it was tied in specifically with the right moon phase. I think if it is something important that you're really focused on doing, it pays to tie it in, because the moon phases, the moon in the zodiac phases, it all adds that extra layer of energy to your spell working. It all helps it move along faster and stronger. So it is absolutely worth doing when you're working with spell work. And that's generally when I find myself working with it quite specifically, is if I have a spell to work. Sephora, you may observe that if we have apogee or perigee within a few days of the full moon, we often get large storms. It's interesting, isn't it, to it's like it's predicting the weather, isn't it? Predicting the weather is such a lost art, but it all ties in, doesn't it? It all links in with it all. Christine, I work a fair amount with the moon. Planting on the full moon is said to be good. Oops. Especially if you plant at midnight. A lot of gardeners know this. Cleansing crystals on the full moon, gathering water when it's raining on the full moon to use in cleansing of negative energies. The energy for spells is a good one. Before the full moon, it's good for wanting things. Spells when it's after full moon, it's good for getting rid of spells. 3 days before, 3 days after. Yes, you've got a little bit of a window there, haven't you, with the full moon? It is. I think if you are working spells, then to tie them in with the moon phases works brilliantly. And all those whole 9 different phases of the moon have specific magic, to specific magical energies that you can correspond with them for your spell working. Cleansing crystals, I do. Not all of them. Some of them I cleanse under the sun, depending on the type of crystal. And moon water, obviously, is brilliant, free and easy to make. But you can make moon water on all of the phases and use it for different purpose. Tony, on the new moon, we do a review of the month and then a vision board of intentions and goals for the coming month. Full moon, a mini ritual to let go of anything that needs to be let go of. Interesting. That's fantastic. New moon is brilliant for doing that, isn't it? That's interesting. If I work with letting go, then I will do it on the waning moon. But hey, there's no right or wrong to this. It's just interesting to see how everybody works with it. The full moon's got such strong power, hasn't it? It's good for all kinds of magic, any kind of magic. Regular work does get in. Yes, you've got to tie in working your witchcraft around your job. Yep, I hear you. Claire, Hecate ritual on dark moon. Full moon ritual with tarot and meditation. check moon phases before spell work or intention setting. I'm normally aware of the moon phase and plan around it. It does play quite an important part. If you are, like I say, if I'm submitting a proposal or something, setting something, a new plan or something in motion, then I will check the moon phases to make sure that it's in the right phase for moving something forward or for positive energy. But Hecate, dark moon, perfect. Sephora, our moon curves on the opposite side in the southern hemisphere. It's clever stuff, isn't it? It is clever stuff. Little Miss Nemo, I used to do a thought form renewal on the full moon, but life got in the way. It does. It does. Jane, I don't work magic on the dark moon. For me, it's a time for divination and reaching out to spirit. The dark moon is a fantastic time for inner work, isn't it? It really is. It is a time for divination and for looking inward. I know there's a whole thing, isn't there, about not working magic on the dark moon. I don't, I think if you feel the need to do it, then do it. Trust your intuition rather than, folklore. You've got to go with what works for you, I think. But at the dark moon, yes, specifically for divination and for other world connections. For inner work as well, shadow work and things is good on the dark moon. I like the dark moon. I think the dark moon for me feels a little bit like a pause. It's like a press that pause button and you've just got that brief moment in the month to breathe. And then you start again. That's what it feels like to me. Jane, use a dark moon, but only as a Hecate devotional. It works. It works. Little Miss Nemo, when I do study stuff or divining, I do make a note of the moon phase and the sign that it's in. And yes, and anyone that's part of the Kitchen Witch School will know that we ask you to work with the moon diary at first. It's interesting. If you keep a moon diary for a month, just to see how your emotions, your energy levels, your feelings, what happens to you and your inner you on a practical, mental, spiritual and physical level on each moon phase. It's really interesting. Even if you just keep the moon journal for a month and write down the phase each morning and then what happens during the day and how you feel, it's really interesting to clock literally how the moon phases affect you and as a whole. It's fascinating to do. Where did it get to? There we are. Eva, really only regularly work with the new moon for abundance. It is. I probably do work with the new moon more than the full moon. There's a prosperity spell, an abundance check that works really well on the new moon. That's probably one of the ones that I do more regularly than others. Else it's just for spells. I'll check the phase and zodiac sign for my intent, but I also look more toward the day of the week than the zodiac sign. Interesting. Yes, because the days of the week have their own magical energy too, don't they? Absolutely. Willow moon, tend to add the qualities of a particular moon phase with whatever I'm working with. It is rare that I wait for a particular moon phase, but I do tend to make the most of the full moon phase if I'm doing something important. I think that's it with spells, isn't it? If you need to work a spell and you need to work it now, you can usually word it or tweak it so that it does fall in line with the energy of the moon. And if you're adding other stuff to as well, intent, your herbs, your colors, your whatever it is that you're working with, you can make it happen. Charlie, can't always see the moon, so I forget. Maybe we could put something in the Kitchen Witch page when full, new, waxing, etc. as reminders. Dark moon, definitely avoid. Interesting, isn't it? The dark moon has a bit of bad rap. I think it does have a bit of a bad rap. I do like it. It is a pause. But yes, Charlie, will certainly look at the moon for that. If you have a look at the Kitchen Witch Coven blog, Heather recorded a whole series of moon rituals for the different moon phases. So they're on there if anybody's interested in those. But yes, we can certainly look at that. Dark moon. Yeah, it's got a bit of it has got a bad reputation, but I like it. I do like it. I don't necessarily work magic on it as such, but I do divination and I do a bit of meditation and pausing before everything else starts again. Willow moon. When it's overcast and raining, I collect moon rain. Perfect. Moon water can be collected, or rain in particular, can be collected on all the different phases. And if it is rain rather than you putting out a jar of water, then it's got the magical properties of rain with it as well. Perfect. Hi, Patricia. Teresa, can you tell me if Mardi Gras and Wicca are related? No, because we do a moon drop on Mardi Gras on second Tuesday in February. No, Mardi Gras is Fat Tuesday, isn't it? And it's related to Lent, as far as I'm aware, isn't it? It's all to do with that. No, not as far as I'm aware. There is no connection. If anybody has any, advice otherwise, not as far as I'm aware, Teresa. But that doesn't stop you from celebrating it, because it's a huge amount of positive energy. So I would work with the energy of it. Maria, I wear my pendant with moonstone, make moon water whether I can see it or not. Very rare I see it from where I am, but had a rare opportunity to see it right above me when it went into full moon. Nice. Excellent. Moonstone. Moonstone is one of those stones. It's beautiful. I don't get on with it. Moonstone and I argue. I don't know why. Then there's always those crystals that you get on with and those that you don't. Crystals to me are like people. They've got their own personalities, their own characteristics. And yeah, moonstone's one that I don't get on with so well. But it is very magical and very powerful. Claire, every Monday I watch a Moon Day YouTube video which tells me about the phase and sign of the moon and how to work with it. It's helping me learn so much. Perfect. Perfect. Knowledge. It's all good. Good morning, Martina. Jess, morning. Apple Watch has a really cool feature where it shows the moon phase on the watch face and the solar phase. Great, as I'm rubbish at keeping track. Excellent. I don't like Apple. I'm a Samsung girl. Rock Samsung. But that is a good idea. I have the app on my phone which works like that. It's very, very useful. Patricia, moon still looks creamy in my left eye, but in my right eye, since cataract's op, it's now bright white. Getting the other eye done next week. Then you'll be matching. I'll make it much easier. Kerry, is there a goddess for the moon? Not just for the moon. There are millions of moon goddesses. Gonna have to get my book. Oh no, that's quite nice. Jaffa cake. Yep, that's quite nice. There are.
Which moon book are you getting out? Because you have about 20.
I only have 2.
Can I help you?
It's heavy.
Too heavy.
It's the big one. There are millions. I mean, Selene and Luna spring to mind immediately. Hecate. There are loads and loads of different moon goddesses. Anyone work with any moon goddesses in particular? Well, obviously, and there's a few moon gods as well. They're in here somewhere. It's such a big book. I have to look and find it. But yes, there are different goddesses for different phases of the moon too. That's it. I hadn't turned the page properly. There's a lot in here. Right, let's have a look. Because I've split that into. Yeah, I've split that into. What we're waning, aren't we? So let's have a look. This book has got the moons by month as well, because obviously each month has a different energy to it as well, and each month has a different moon name, generally for the full moon of the month, and it will be named after wherever you are in the world generally. So snow moon, wolf moon, moon of falling petals, whatever it might be. It usually describes nature in the time of the year or time that month, in the moon in that month. So waning gibbous moon deities: Artemis, Athena, Epona, Hecate, Kali Ma, Kuan Yin, Turn the page. Lucina, Luna, Parvati, and Rhiannon. There you go. That's waning gibbous moon goddesses. So there are different ones for each of the different phases of the moon, depending on what pantheon you work with, I guess, depending on who you feel called to.
I like Song Rhiannon, if that counts.
So Rhiannon, yeah, good old Stevie Nicks. Christine, watching the moon too much can drive you mad on the full moon, hence the saying lunatic. Yes, friend who works with prisoners said they always put extra staff on as it can drive prisoners mad. All trouble happens then. It is where the word lunatic comes from, isn't it? And I think if you talk to nurses and hospital staff as well, they'll tell you that they get more people in for accidents and things and more babies born. It's powerful stuff. Little Miss Nemo. Moonbathing is lovely. When I was little and my bed was directly under a window, I used to be able to feel the moon heat on my face. It's nice, but it doesn't half keep you awake. Who else struggles to sleep on the full moon? I don't think it's just me. The full moon does send things a little bit squiffy. Sephora says, Celine, she is absolutely a moon goddess. Maria, this full moon really... it's powerful stuff. It is powerful stuff. Willow Moon. I work more with the intensity of the waxing or the waning. So you've got the building energy and the releasing energy. Again, powerful stuff. But that's broken down too. There are those 9 phases. So there are several phases in the waxing and several phases in the waning. And each one has slightly different energies. And as I say, each month will have slightly different energies for the moon as well. Karen, I like to make magical water under the moon phases and like to know what phase the moon is in all the time. Easier if you can see it. I love to watch her and the stars. Yeah, it is magical, isn't it? It's definitely magical. Xenia, look at the moon phases for magic, but after I found out that often I don't feel well, migraine kicks in and I don't feel like it, I gave up. Sometimes I don't feel like the according topics related to the moon phases, so I work magic when it's necessary. Don't wait 2 weeks in an emergency. No, don't. And when I feel the energy I need for that ritual. I love gazing at the moon and bathing in the light, though. On my flights this week, I both time had a direct view on the full moon, and that was incredible. Or from the plane, how amazing. Brilliant. Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? There are those 9 phases, and each one has its different energies, but each phase takes a whole month to come round again. So don't hold off working particular magic if you really need to. You can always work with the phases of the sun. Phases of the sun come round in a day. So you've got all of those phases in the one day. So you can always work with solar energy instead of lunar, or you can always just bump up the power of your spell by adding other correspondences, the day of the week or the herbs or the hour of the day as well. There's plenty of different correspondences you can work with. Never worked with the sun, Claire. Oh, don't know what you're missing. I literally work with the sun as much as I work with the moon because you get all of those phases in the one day. And I'm impatient.
Really?
So you get the sunrise, which is the new moon. You get the waxing, which is the morning. You get the midday sun, which is the full moon. You get the waning of the afternoon, and then you get the sunset in the evening. So you've got all of those waxing, full and waning in one day when you work with the sun. Has a different energy, and that actually leads me on to another question. The moon, feminine, masculine, neither, both? How do you work with that? It's interesting, isn't it? I think everything within magic, we like to assign a gender to it, whether it is the moon and the sun, whether it is herbs, plants, crystals, they are all assigned feminine or masculine energy. For me, the moon is feminine, it always has been. I've always worked with her as a feminine energy and the sun as masculine. There's balance for me in both of those, the moon and the sun being opposites. The masculine and the feminine being opposites. The moon for me does carry those feminine energies, those feminine characteristics. But that doesn't work in all cultures. There are a lot of myths and stories where it's the other way around, where the sun is feminine and the moon is masculine. Quite often the stories are that they are sister and brother or husband and wife chasing each other across the skies. Do you guys all work with her as feminine, or do you have other thoughts about the gender of the moon and the sun? How do you feel about it? Share. Maria does the same, and it's just beginning to wax. It is powerful energies, whatever phase they're in. Emma, I use the same app as you, the DAF app. Yeah, that's the one I work with. But when I do work with the moon properly, I do try to do things with all the different phases. I work with the dark moon also. It's just, I think it's just interesting to work with the different phases as well. They have all got their different energies. And each month the moon has the different energies as well. Claire. Last quarter is time for energetic cleansing of house when I remember. I find I do that and don't realize that it's because it's in that phase. It is interesting the amount of things we probably do like that and don't realize that we are in sync with the moon phase. Kerry, Void. The moon moves through all the different signs of the zodiac, usually a couple of days in each one, but there's odd occasions when it's not in any of the zodiac houses, and that's when that happens. It's sciencey stuff. Janet, on a full moon, I look up, pouring water from the bottle I drank from and whispering my intentions for the month. Perfect. See, these things don't need to be complicated, do they? I love the simple stuff, the straightforward stuff. It has so much power to it, but it's so straightforward to do, uncomplicated. Love it. Charlie is asking Claire if you could put the link for the YouTube you watch on the Monday for the moon phase so that other people can have a look. Facebook playing up again, Xenia, sorry. Have a look on YouTube. Sephora, Hina, the Maori moon goddess, has 30 different faces to help illuminate life's lessons. Different face and different energy for each day of the month. And with her changing light, new insights are revealed. I love that. That's fantastic. Perfect. Thank you for that, Sephora. I shall look into her. That's brilliant. Jane, I observe the colour of the moon. If it looks like a light shining through a very thin slice of tomato, I call it a sticky moon. And it's usually muggy the next day. Not many tomato moons this time of the year. I love that description. That's a fantastic description of the moon. Sephora, I have to make sure my husband has a job or task to keep him busy during the full moon, as his energy goes through the roof and he needs to put that energy somewhere. We'll send him a list of jobs to do, Sephora. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Alex. Little Miss Nemo. I like cleansing my crystals either in full sun or in full moonlight. There's something very romantic about moonlight cleansing. There is, isn't there? I do, yeah. I think some crystals lend themselves to moonlight, others lend themselves to sunlight. So I do kind of divide them up. But it is, yeah, moonlight is magical, isn't it? Absolutely. Jane, the dark moon sounds like a good time to catch up with journaling. Absolutely. Eva, I like to take relaxing baths during the dark moon. I think it is about self-care, definitely. The dark moon's definitely a self-care phase. Willow moon, I work more with sea and tides, so the high tides are a couple of days after the full and new moons. It all ties in, doesn't it? It all ties in. Deb, I love the quiet solitude of the dark moon. I do this. I think there's something really special about it. Sephora, the dark new moon is a no activity in the garden time, so it's the time we sit down and plan the month ahead and just chill out, and often our energy levels match this, are ready for a rest. Yeah, it does. It all falls into place, doesn't it? Eva, I noticed that my resting heart rate, it is always lowest during the dark moon and peaks around the full moon. I love it when science and magic interact. For me, science and magic do go hand in hand, and that just upholds it. Yeah, absolutely. Claire, I also make full moon water for meditating with and dark moon water for shadow work and home cleansing. Yeah, the different phases are so useful for different moon waters and so straightforward to make. Jane, when the moon's dark, it seems to correspond with anything that's hidden, shadowy, or unknown. Absolutely. Emma needs a moon face for finding my glasses that I just put down. Yeah, we need a spell for that, don't we? Claire, I once collected thunderstorm water on the night of a Scorpio eclipse full moon. Whoo-wee! It's in a bottle still. I'm surprised it's still in the bottle and hasn't escaped. Almost scared to use it. That's some powerful water in there. There is some powerful water. I'm Scorpio. Kerry, tend to cleanse and charge crystals, crystal jewelry under the full moon and the new moon. Yes, because the full moon is very cleansing and powerful, but the new moon is new energy, new growth, new beginnings, isn't it? So the new moon works very well. And actually, you could also charge anything under the waning moon if you wanted to clear the negative energy from them, because that would release it. Maria says, Ariane Rod, yes, another moon goddess. Jane, many years ago, my then teenage son had a really nasty accident when experimenting with an aerosol can and a match. Oh no, it literally backfired on him and he spent 2 weeks in a burns unit. It happened on the exact minute of the full moon. Teenagers, eh? Teenagers. Eva, can't sleep on the hill moon. No one in our house can. Full moon. Yeah, it does. It really does affect you. Willow Moon, an outdoor ritual around a fire pit went a little funky when the full moon was full and bright, but there was a lunar eclipse. We had a bit of a battle of energies when Hecate gate crashed Luna's ritual, but we couldn't argue. No, probably best not to. Sue, don't sleep. No, I don't either. It is one of those things. Yeah, Eva, can't sleep on the full moon. We're just a joy to be around then. Yeah. Maharet, I'm often awake all night on a full moon, but I get a lot of organising stuff done for that reason too, so it's not so bad. Yep. Yeah, Sephora, you only have to talk to a psych nurse and mention the full moon, not their favourite time. No, I think that goes for most hospital staff. Christine, I hardly ever sleep on the full moon. I also get some weirdest dreams too, yes. Supposed to affect women more than men, as it can work along with the menstrual time. It said long ago women used to go into a room, women's only, as most women had their month at the same lunar time. It used to happen apparently when we lived more as communities together, and the women would kind of find themselves in sync, often with the full moon, and then all of their cycles would come in sync with each other. You'll find it in groups of friends as well. And yes, they would all go and sit together, sewing, weaving, whatever it is, because they were all in that time. Sounds like a good plan to me. I like the idea of that. Emma's found her glasses. Yay! Willow Moon, when I'm sending healing and asking others to join, I always do it at sunset, such a beautiful time. It's a liminal time, isn't it? I think perhaps the dark moon is perhaps one of those liminal times as well. But with solar magic, the sunset, just before the sunset and just at the sunset and just before the sunrise, there are those in-between times, aren't they? They are those liminal times, and there is something very magical about that in-between space. Leslie, the moon is mother to me. Okay. That's the whole other thing as well, isn't there? The phases of the moon are often associated with the triple goddess. So the new moon as the maiden, the full moon as the mother, I'm going to slip another one here. I'm going to put the matriarch in there as the waning moon and the crone as the dark moon. Because although I work with the triple goddess a lot, wrote a book about it, obviously, but I put 4 in there. I don't work with 3, I work with 4, because I think we need that matriarch, that queen one in there because it rounds it out more, makes more sense to me. And then it ties in with the phases of the moon: the maiden, the mother, the matriarch, the crone, the new, the waxing, the full, the waning, if you want to do it that way, or the new, the full, the waning, and the dark moon. The 4 phases anyway. So yes, but yeah, the moon is often referred to as the mother, isn't she? Jane, in a lot of languages, everything has a gender. Yes. French, yes, does particularly, doesn't it? Everything is feminine or masculine, which does get a bit confusing for the animals, yeah. Maria, she is definitely a she, as she has a nurturing quality I feel from her. Yeah, I think for me, the moon does have that, the more feminine qualities, if you like. Jane, I find it very hard to think of the moon as masculine. Maybe it's because men don't menstruate. Yeah, I can see that. Claire, I also see the moon as feminine, more subtle energy than the masculine sun. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that totally. I work with the sun energy too, but today I'm realizing that I work more with the moon energy. There's no right or wrong. You've got to go with what works for you. Absolutely. But yes, they are different energies. Absolutely. Sylvia, I've been told over and over again by people to work with the moon, and I cannot find my way in it. I only use the moon when I need to draw something in or when I want to draw something out, waxing and waning. But that's all I do with the moon. And there's no right or wrong with that. Not everyone is going to work with the moon. There is no right or wrong there. It has to work for you. You have to feel it to be able to work with it. Xenia, it is, and languages gender things without sense. In German, you find different words for sofa with all 3 genders. Also, dog breeds with all 3 genders. Language is just, yeah. I've just started learning Latin. It's tough. Xenia, in Norse mythology, the moon is masculine, the sun is feminine. There are quite a few cultures and myths where it is the other way around. Louise, both kids off school today, so not much to want to join in. Busy day for you. Also find I do things without realizing you're in sync. I think we do, don't we? We do these things and then suddenly realize that we're in that moon phase. That makes sense. Sephora, if anyone is interested in Hina, the Maori moon goddess, oh, that's me. Dr. Hinimoa Elder, one of our leading child psychiatrists, has written a book called Wawata Moon Dreaming. Thank you for that recommendation, Sephora. That actually sounds fascinating. Louise has 8 inches of snow. Worried for my roses. They're very weighed down. They'll be all right. Quick chop and nip and tuck. Once it's all gone, they'll be fine. They're tough things. Willow Moon, you can't work on full power all the time. Oh, no, absolutely. You also need to wax and wane or you'll burn out. Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it, isn't it? About how we work as people and the whole resting on the dark moon. And you do, a lot of students that I work with, a lot of people I work with moon magic and myself will find that your energy levels are in tune with the moon phases. You'll have a lot more energy on the waxing moon. Full moon's just crazy. Waning moon, not so much energy or interest to do things. And then relaxing on the dark moon. It makes sense. Xenia, yeah, live in cycles. It is, isn't it? It's perfect. Willow Moon, moon phase of finding glasses. Dark moon, sit and think about where they could be. Pull up your memories. As the moon waxes, make plans about where to look. On the full moon, pull the house apart looking relentlessly. Waning moon, consider loss, make plans, buy another pair. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sephora, we are lucky enough to live in the country with very little light pollution. If the neighbour keeps the spotlight off, yeah. So the full and new moon are very noticeable, and it's fascinating to sit outside and listen to the critters during those times, particularly full moon. She's busy out there. And that, I think, is probably the easiest and most wonderful way to work with her, isn't it? To just sit and be with her. Absolutely. Xenia, Can relate. Going to a menstrual hut or tent and resting, as I couldn't do anything more than resting and doing nothing during mens. It knocks me out every time. I think it's a brilliant idea. We should bring them back, shouldn't we, really? Jane, for a lot of the waxing moon time, it could represent the fecund goddess. That the phase seems to be proportional to the productive and nurturing phase of a woman's life. Yeah, I'll go with that. That makes sense. Little Miss Nemo, for me, the moon is definitely feminine. Even Gilbert and Sullivan gave us a feminine moon and a masculine sun. Yeah, and got to listen to Gilbert and Sullivan, definitely. Pia, hey, lovely. We always do our ritual the night before, so after 12 a.m. The clouds are always in the way. The night after, for me, we started. Pagan tribal gathering on new moon. I didn't realise till synchronization from the old gods set the dates 15 months before we started in 2018. Pagan tribal gathering. Brilliant, brilliant, fantastic event. Myself and the girls are really looking forward to it this year. As always, fantastic. But synchronicity, yeah, it does. We do a lot of things without even realising it. Maria, think of it this way. Often people will call the moon beautiful and the sun glorious. Yeah, you don't call the sun beautiful, do you? Interesting. Yeah. Hi, Kerry. Kerry, I love the moon, no matter what the phase is. Yeah, I think each phase has its own energy to it, and each one will have a different effect on us. And I think if you do, particularly if you work as well, like I do with the months, each month will have its own particular moon as well. And that energy, so the energy for the full moon in March is going to be different from the energy for the full moon in April. They all carry their own different energies. But I think it's important to remember that, not to stress yourself if you don't work with every single moon phase, or you don't do a ritual every full moon. It's really, you're not going to get struck down by the gods. You aren't. And I think just by looking up at her is a fantastic way of connecting, by realizing what the moon phase is, keeping an eye on them if you can from your phone or whatever it might be. I think just keeping that slight in touch with her is a brilliant way of working with her. Just feeling her energy doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Zephora, very interesting. Talk about the sun as well, though, with the X flares and the cycle the sun is entering. It will affect the sun as well as the planet. I can talk to you about sun magic just as much as I can talk about moon magic, because I love working with it. We'll do sun magic on another day. Kerry, pagan tribal gathering is the best ever, just like coming home to loving family. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Kerry. Absolutely. It was our first one last year, and we loved it and signed up as quick as we could for this year's. Christine, when I was going through the menopause, I would sit and talk to the moon. She was a great comfort for me. I didn't get any problems with the menopause. I know how lucky I am. But I find talking to her makes me feel like I'm talking to a friend. Love sleeping with the moon shining through the bedroom window. Yes, if you can do that, it is an amazing experience. To be able to see her as you're drifting off to sleep is perfect. I haven't had so much fun with the menopause, I must admit. Where is Pagan Tribal Gathering held? I'll put the link up in a minute, Jane, unless Pia's there. If Pia wants to put the link up to it, and you can get all of the details. Emma, I must admit I've been feeling less of a witch without using the moon phases as much as I used to, but I'm trying to change that way of thinking. Oh, no. A lot of witches do work with the moon phase, but a lot of them don't either. So, no, none of this is, you mustn't beat yourself up about any of it. Even, I'm working with it as well. It's just, how do you work with it? You could just look at her. It's, It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. But if you don't feel a connection to her, it doesn't make you any less witchy at all. Oh, thank you, Pia. Jane, Pia has put the link to the Pagan Tribal Gathering there. It's about a 3.5, 4 hour drive from where I am, but it's totally worth it. Maria, I've always found that spells with elements or other purposes, including deity, choose me when it's the right time. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Trust your intuition. So that's an hour already. I think Christine said earlier, where's the week gone? Has. Okay, we're getting towards halfway through March too. I don't know where the year's gone. It's getting old. Business is rubbish. So however you work with the moon, I can highly recommend the phone apps. They are very useful. I will talk to the girls. We'll have a look at getting some regular moon stuff put up on the Kitchen Witch Coven Facebook page, but do have a look at the Kitchen Witch Coven blog, because there is lots of different moon phase information there. Just, do what works for you. There's no right or wrong here. No right or wrong whatsoever. Work with her in any way that you feel works for you. Jane, it'll probably appear when this finishes, so do have a look. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Do have a look at the moon if you get a chance to, and we will see you all hopefully tomorrow at MoonCon at some stage. Wave at me behind the screens. Otherwise, I will see you guys all here next week. Take care, everyone.